Hello, friends, and welcome to Film Chewing. We are here today to discuss Alien Romulus. We have the crew together to finish off the Alien franchise discussions, at least for now, but we'll get into all that. Anthony, will you start us off with an introduction, please?
Hello, yes, I'm Anthony Self. I have written a couple of books, one of them called Birthday Treat, which is dystopian horror. The other one, Cat Tales and Other Strange Stories, is a kind of anthology of horror. And I have a gaming channel called Horrible, where I play through some indie horror games and give my thoughts on it.
Hello, my name is Susana Imaginário. I'm the author of Weird Gods and other books, and I run the YouTube channel Den of the Weird.
Yeah, so I wasn't really sure what to I was trying to temper my expectations coming into Romulus. I was avoiding all the spoilers, didn't look into anything, and I think, yeah. So we'll get into all the things that all the discussions, but let's start off with the good things. What were your thoughts on the positives for this one?
Well, for me, the good thing, and it's pretty much the only good thing, it was great to see the alien back to its original design, or as close to it. Unapologetically phallic, very, creepy. It captured that very well. So for a moment, I was optimistic. I said, okay, they're onto something. They're doing this right. And then I was wrong.
I love the cinematography. I thought Alvarez's style is very much in keeping with both the first Alien film, that like low future tech kind of going on, and also with the Alien side of things. The soundtrack is obviously, taking segments from both Alien and Aliens, so you can't really go wrong there. Mm-hmm. And I would say for the first half an hour to 40 minutes, I like the kind of world building that was going on here. We start off with Rain and Andy down on the kind of mining planet. We get the kind of the Weyland-Yutani Corporation greed aesthetic going on. And then when they head up to Renaissance, the space station, the kind of tension building was really good to that point. But yeah, the cinematography was great. It was amazing. I love that kind of, they kept the aesthetic of the like the Nostromo type ship, the kind of the lo-fi stuff going on. Yes, I like that indeed.
So I did like the first, like you said, the first 20, 30 minutes or so of the mining colony, and that whole setup. I don't know that it really paid off. It didn't really do much. Yeah. I mean, it was nice and all, but and then I thought the Alvarez's style. I was hoping more tension, more kind of more of like the Don't Breathe type of tension is one of his previous films. The other thing that I liked is that they incorporated the first Alien, who's referred to as Big Chap sometimes. I like that they used him in a way to. Mm-hmm. But the problem is that the problem I have with it is that the timeline is really messed up, because we have, so in Prometheus, well, originally I'd heard that this film ignored the Scott prequels, was what I originally heard. That would have made a lot more sense, because the technology was very much like the first Alien film in the kind of the retro style. But in Prometheus, we have all this really high-tech, slick technology that is, light years away from where we are now, and we have the same thing in Covenant. So we go back to this kind of retro style, and it just doesn't really it's supposed to be before Prometheus and all that. All those events happened before all of this happened. So it feels like we're moving backwards, and it doesn't really make sense. As far as the timeline goes, it doesn't really it feels really disjointed on kind of the style and tone of both the prequels and the originals.
I think what they're meant to be doing is with Prometheus, because it's Mr. Weyland himself. The ship, the Prometheus ship that they're using, is meant to be like this interstellar sort of research vessel. So it's going to be all bells and whistles. Then with Covenant, it's more of a kind of freight, isn't it? Because they're transporting people basically, and then you have Alien, which is a kind of towboat sort of very working class, everything's falling apart, and then this is set in between Alien and Aliens, so it's like 30 years after the events of Alien, I believe. And yeah, they've got like the kind of mining ships and stuff like that are set on the kind of world. So I think you could argue the timeline away a little bit in that respect. You could argue the fact that, in Prometheus, even though the ship looks like the most sleek design thing, that's because it is Weyland's personal ship. It is this research vessel. I think that's what they're trying to go for. And then with the Nostromo and their mining vessel that they use in Alien Romulus are more like grounded because they're just there to do a perfunctory job, like tug ships and take mine to somewhere else, etc., etc. So I think that kind of fits, but there are a lot of plot holes, I think, like as you're saying, like with the big chap. I'm no scientist, I don't know how these things work, but didn't Nostromo have a massive blow up 3 times, and the big chap becomes fossilized? Is that what we're saying?
I didn't get it. I was like, what are we talking about? I didn't even realize that it was the same one until, about 2 or 3 minutes afterwards, because, it wasn't he like incinerated by the engine or something? Never mind finding it in the first place, but I guess, okay, if you knew where the Nostromo's exploded, maybe you could pick up bits from space. But he was incinerated. How the hell did he end up in rock or whatever it was? Moving on.
Yeah, I'm no cosmonaut or anything like that, but with an explosion the size that the Nostromo was, and then at the very start of the film you have the Weyland-Yutani sort of deep salvage vessel come and pick up like this big chunk of rock, and they kind of cut it apart, and then you have the big chap in there. It's like, okay. I think... I don't know if you follow the Critical Drinker, but he kind of came up with a sort of a what-if scenario, like if he rewrote the Alien Romulus script. And I think his version of it would be better, whereas you could have the original facehugger that impregnated Kane, and they kind of just jettisoned it out into space, like maybe when Ash was finished with it, and they could have picked up the facehugger. That would have led a bit more credence to the storyline, I think. But I suppose, sci-fi... and you can sort of bend the rules a little bit, I guess. So they just went with the big chap. And I suppose it kind of does make sense later on when they board the ship and you find that loads of people have just been massacred and just been killed because the big chap awoke. Assume the big chap awoke and then, tried to decimate everyone. So,
I mean...
yes, the way that I... Oh, I'm sorry.
So there's so many plot holes. Go back to the beginning. I was fine with the fact that it was a very young cast. I was not enthused about this film because of the young cast. But then beginning was actually okay. Many horror flicks start with a group of teenagers sets out to do something stupid, and it was exactly that. And I was going along with it. And then that happened, but I didn't even think about it too much at the time while I was watching. I was just, okay, the explanation doesn't make sense. Forget about it. Moving on. Let's see what else they have, because they had to come up with some way to find the alien. So okay, but it just kept getting worse. That for me was far from the worst offense. They could have just said, "Hey, we found this," and we start studying it out. I would be fine with that. No more explanations here, because the more they tried to explain, the worse it got.
Yeah, so I think what they were trying to do with it is, so in the original Alien, the ship blows up 3 times, and then after, when Ripley thinks that she saved the alien, arm pops out, right? So what I think they were going for is that it was in ice because it's cold in space, but because he was just floating in space. but the thing is, and then they have the scene of a piece of the Nostromo, a piece of the original ship, that to kind of clue us into, okay, this is that ship from the first film, but it would have been dust, right? Because of the explosion, there would have been nothing left. So I think they had to insert that into it to kind of clue us off to, okay, this is what this is, and the harpoon. So I think it's cool that they used the original Alien, but I just don't know that it really worked. And here I am asking for positives, and then it took me like 20 seconds to get into complain mode. But yeah, so I think I like that they tried to use that. Out of all the things that they tried to use from previous films, I think that was the most interesting choice. I don't know that they executed it very well, but
I mean, I also like the character of Andy. David Johnson played a fantastic role, dual rolling, so to speak, because at the very beginning he's playing this kind of very childlike android that Rain's father has reprogrammed to look after her, knowing that we're assuming. I think they explain it. He passed away. He was one of the miners of this planet, and so he kind of got this android and a piece of a scrapyard or something like that, and you can tell that he's falling apart as the years have gone on, and then halfway through the movie he gets an upgrade and becomes this almost you don't know what his true intentions are. Is he a corporate tool to be used, or does he still have feelings, or as a robot can have feelings as such, for his friend. The other characters, unfortunately, kind of fell in the periphery of cannon fodder, I think. But once again, then we're looking at from Prometheus and Covenant. The androids are becoming the actual protagonists, which is a bit strange, I think, in these type of films where we should be rooting for the human characters. This kind of goes back into the. I heard originally when Fede Alvarez was doing this that it was going to be like a teen slasher set in space, and my cynical skepticism flags were waving high and fast. And in a certain way, that's what this is. Mm-hmm. And if you have seen Don't Breathe, the storyline's pretty much the same. A group of teens break into somewhere where they shouldn't be breaking into, and there's a main sort of bad guy that's after them. And this is pretty much the same sort of running concept here. But I mean, I liked, the fact that we have the first half, which is very Alien-esque in its sort of tension building, world building, and then the second half becomes more Aliens with its action. And if you haven't seen Alien or Aliens, see, this is the point. I don't understand who this was targeted for, because if you know Alien, if you want to see Alien Romulus, you've pretty much probably already seen the previous films. So I don't understand why you just kind of rehash. There seems to be a lot of this going on in Hollywood where they're just kind of rehashing old storylines, like the original Star Wars. Going back to A New Hope with the I can't remember what it's called now. I've erased it from my memory. But yeah, there just seems to be a lot of rehashing going on, and bringing old IP characters into the mix as well. I mean, that's another conversation I guess we'll have in a minute, sort of thing, about bringing back old characters, and how do you feel about that? But it seemed to me that this was like a kind of almost like a soft reboot as well, to kind of bring new generations into the mix of the Alien franchise. So I guess for older generations that have, grew up on Alien and Aliens and Alien 3 and whatnot, do you think they would have turned around and just been like, oh, okay, that was a film, or do you think this was more to try and tie in what worked best, i.e. the first two films, and just kind of rehash it, sort of thing,
For me, it was almost like watching the scary movie version of Scream, and in Alien. It's like they picked all the most memorable moments of all the films and just made a parody out of it. After a certain point, it started to feel like a parody, and it was one of a tragedy because they were taking it very seriously. But if it was supposed to be an homage or to try to bring more people into the franchise, I think it failed because the only people who went and watched it were the people who really like Alien and just, I'll give it one more go. I don't think there's a lot of new audience that just, this is about those old movies, let's, it should be cool. I hope not, because if that's their first introduction to Alien, it's quite different. If they then go back and watch the other films, they're in for a surprise. Yeah, it was very weak. I mean, there was no reason to be so badly written, and I will get into that in a bit. So yeah, my expectations were quite low, and I was prepared to, let a lot go, but it was even worse than I thought. It's just one after the other. Just we'll get to the end. That just, yeah. So to recap, the movie for me started going downhill when Ash appeared. AI Ash. I mean, there was why didn't they have a budget for it in the age of deepfakes and AI? Was that the best they could come up with? It was awful. I mean, it was really bad. I don't think it was just me. I know that I'm always, very critical of stuff, but that was bad. That was really poor. And
sorry, go on. It almost seemed to me that the budget for the CGI seemed to, because at the very beginning when we see Rook, we know from the kind of the costume that it's a science officer, right? But for the first couple of scenes that he's in, his face is sort of blacked out. He's shrouded in darkness, and then the first time you actually see him, it looks a bit wonky. As the film goes on, it gets better, but it does seem that there was some kind of thing where they started off with like really shonky CGI / deepfake / that kind of part, and as the film kind of went on, it almost seemed like they had kind of captured what they needed, and it was getting better as the film went on. I maybe that was just me. I don't know if you felt that way as well, or you just thought it was shonky throughout. Maybe, yeah. But I mean, that kind of brings up the whole question then. Like, we're seeing a lot more of this type of thing, and when it works well, it's fine, but you still always have that uncanny valley thing with the eyes. I don't know, like, you can never get the eyes right. From when Princess Leia turned up in the, Rogue One to, Harrison Ford de-aging in the latest Indiana Jones films. It's getting markedly impressive. It's getting better. But we're still not there yet, where it's like, and it kind of pulls you out. For me, it kind of really pulled me out because I was expecting Ash / Rook to turn up because it's kind of been spoiled for me by that point by the time I'd seen it. And the voiceover actor was, spot on. Got Ian Holmes' tempo completely right. No fault there. But it is that thing of when you introduce a CGI character in a kind of real living world, unless it's done really like to perfection, it's going to always sever my connection with what I'm watching because it does provide that uncanny valley, which kind of makes me feel a little bit that something's not right on the screen here. And then that kind of just cuts me off from the investment and the engrossment of what I'm watching and what I'm investing my time in. So I think that was, bit of a misfire to have the character of Rook involved as being like an Ash character. And once again, it's key dangling, right? It's like, hey, remember this character from Alien? He was the bad guy, but now he's trying to help out. And maybe there are sort of ulterior motives later on down the line. We don't know that yet, but yeah.
I mean, they would have done better maybe if they used a puppet or something like it, like they did in Alien 3 for Bishop.
Yeah.
Even that would have been better than that poor AI.
If they wanted to appeal to a younger audience and kind of have a proper reboot, I don't know that leaning on all these old characters and old events are really the way to go, because
without context.
create new characters, create a new mythos, create something new, and have it run parallel to the existing films, and do something a little different, and create new villains and new heroes. And but they keep going back to these old nostalgic characters and these events and all the little callbacks to the previous movie. Just okay, I get it. Like the cornbread thing and Bishop crawling through the tunnel and.
Not even started with the why. Why would you have these iconic phrases from the films and just why are you reusing them?
So much.
So bad. It was so bad. But when he did appear, when Rook did appear, that's kind of the turning point for me too. Is it just felt like everything changed. It just felt like the whole thing got derailed, and they could have had his consciousness or whatever in the ship somehow to communicate another way. But why is his body still? It's the same. It's the same android, but it's in a different body.
No, it's the same sort of model. So it's the same sort of model, but it's like a Bishop. So we've seen Bishop turn up in other instances of the franchise. It's kind of like that. It's just a different model of, but obviously with Ian, like they use the same face and everything like that. So it's a different character in this regards. And I do like that they've using the kind of chessboard piece of Rook Bishop. They're kind of keeping on with that type of thread, which I did like. But yeah, as you said, like there's instances in Romulus where we see Rook on a kind of computer screen, and it was like that could have been just done so much more better. I believe they used a lot of prosthetics with the alien creature, and I think even with the Rook character at certain points, and they've kind of melded the CGI with the kind of physical prosthetic stuff. But it's as you said, like I think it would have worked a lot better if he was just like some kind of consciousness of the ship, like Mother. Something like that, or he was just like a kind of a figure on the screen sort of thing, which could have been done a lot better, because then you can put filters on, you can put like grain on, to give it that kind of aesthetic where the world we're in. But yeah, once again, I just thought it was kind of key dangling to like other people that have grown up on the franchise to say like, here's this old character again.
Member berries.
Yeah, exactly.
And what did you guys think? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to ask, what did you guys thought of the timeline within the film? Never mind where the film fits into the universe, because I don't think it does at all. But within the film, it was like I was watching the product of two different scripts. Because at the beginning, there was like 4 hours to get to the other side of the ship. Okay, very good. And we are doing spoilers. And at that point, the little alien, the chess person, had already appeared. I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but I just want to make this point. And then suddenly they only had like 40 minutes, and they go along this corridor and they find this cocoon, and then the big alien comes out. So pretty much all that happened in like 15 minutes. There was other stuff happening in between, but if you follow that timeline, it was like 10, 14 minutes. And I'm like, how? Why? So I had this image of, the little alien just, still very groggy, just being born. And then it just goes along the ship and he looks at this wall. Oh, this is going to be an excellent place, just along a wall, to pupate, and gets in. Where does he even get the mass to grow in such a short time, and why do they need to do that in 10 minutes? I mean, the whole thing for me is like, did I miss something? Because it made no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, I think once again,
with something new, and maybe they had like 4 hours in the original script, and someone came back and said, "Oh no, that's too long. Let's cut it to half an hour." Oh, but this idea is so cool. Can we still keep it in? Yeah, sure, we'll be fine.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely feels like to me that a lot of stuff was left on the cutting room floor. I think if there's like a definitive edition that comes out later on that will have like deleted scenes, that might, because it's I don't know. I hope they do, because as you said, like they do play fast and loose with the timeline here in regards of like the genesis of going from facehugger to bursting to.
That annoyed me in all the Alien films from the very beginning was just how did it grow so fast, so much so fast. And that aspect, it's almost instantaneous now. So.
I mean, I think it's one of those kind of ones where when you have the lore that's already kind of set out from the first film, because when Kane gets impregnated originally, you kind of feel like there's been like a kind of 24-hour time period as to when the chest burster comes out, when they're sitting around the scene. I think just in terms of, trying pacing wise, I think it's purely studio exec saying like, well, we've got to have this happen quickety quick. So the actual timeline of the pregnancy of like the alien inside someone's chest to coming out now has been dramatically shortened, and I think that's just really a pacing issue in terms of like people watching it. Like in Romulus, for example, Navarro gets her pregnant, she gets the face hugger sort of thing, and I think within, is it like, I don't know in time in the actual film that passes, but it feels like for them it's like an hour or something. Yeah. And then she's back on the ship and she wants to escape. I could be wrong. It could be a couple of hours, but it's definitely not 24 hours.
It was
so yeah, they are playing fast and loose with it.
How far can you suspend your disbelief? But this is the same with modern films these days. It's all pacing. Stuff needs to happen. Action. But without these moments of because we know things take time. We don't need to go through every minutiae of daily life details affair. But things take time, and there's a lot that can be put into a film during that time to help build the anticipation, the suspense. If things just keep happening, just because they happen, it's very hard to buy into them, to care about what's going on, because it's just stuff happening for no good reason.
Yeah, it does seem. I think that's another thing that they did is they use we have X amount of time before something blows up or before we're all dead. I think that's another one that they just keep reusing the same things, but
there was nothing.
One thing something. One of the things I did like was the gore. I thought that was, if at least for some of it, I thought it was okay that they kind of went for it with the violent, with it popping out and the blood splatter and things like that. I thought that was at least they went for a little bit more. But the face huggers, they don't in Alien and Aliens, the face huggers seem very scary. They're strong. You can't really. You have to run from they wrap if their tails around your neck. You need 3 Marines to pull it off of you. You can't do it by yourself. They're very formidable, but here they seem very disposable. They're like everywhere. They're smaller. They're like
and
just
why
like
did they look like spiders? So they went to the trouble to be so faithful to the original design of the alien, and why then they go and ruin the face huggers? They look like spiders. They even kind of lift their paws like spiders, and I was like, oh.
I think they they try to sort of explain it because they look a bit different, don't they? And I think they've been kind of, what's the word, like cross DNAing with the black goo to try and make a kind of a different.
If all they had was the DNA from the big chap, how? Again, don't even try to answer.
That was in going back to some of the positives though. I did enjoy the scene where they're basically the two scenes. One, Susana, you mentioned there with the kind of weird sort of vaginal style thing on the wall that the alien comes out of, because I thought that kind of went well with the original deleted scene in Alien when Ripley comes down into the docks and she sees Dallas being cocooned, and the metamorphosis. At that time, we didn't really know the life cycle of the alien, so that kind of is a famous deleted scene because it kind of propagated the fact that, you know, the eggs are actually all people, like, you know, the people are made into. So I thought they were trying to do something new there, but then going back to what I was saying about there seems to be a lot of stuff that was left on the cutting room floor. To me, it kind of seemed a bit weird that this newly born alien is sort of run off, and now there's this like weird, you know, mass on the wall, and it comes out of the mass, and I was like, there should have been a scene prior to that to kind of show us something as to why this has happened. But I did like the fact that they've actually sort of said, actually, it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, maybe some xenomorphs could actually asexually style, you know, make themselves bigger or something. I'm not sure what they were going for, but I like the fact that they were trying something else, if that makes sense. And then the second bit was the scene where they have the kind of the section full of face huggers and they raise the temperature so to kind of mask their own, you know, for me, I didn't know beforehand that, you know, the face huggers went on the kind of thermal part of a body, and that kind of went, oh, you know what? I don't think anyone's really how does a face hugger know what they need to, you know, latch themselves onto? So I thought by raising the temperature and they could sort of mask themselves in a kind of Predator sort of way, you know, maybe they were taking something from Predator there. Don't know. I like that. I thought that was quite an inspired sort of part as well.
That's true. I like that bit. I say, okay, finally, something. But even that doesn't say good. But then that's straight from directive.
I think the thing that grinded my gears the most really was you have these young characters, and for me personally, with the Alien franchise, it's always been about the characters. That's why the Nostromo crew are so embedded in people, and it's become such a cult film, because really it's the characters, their interactions with each other. In Aliens, it's the Marines, the way they interact with each other. Here, for me personally, there's only two main characters. It's Rain and Andy. Tyler, Kay, Bjorn, Navarro, they're all peripheral characters. Kay spends most of the time going, oh, I'm feeling a bit sick because I'm pregnant. I'm just going to sleep in the ship. Until she's needed to become like the kind of pregnant mother of the newborn in that respect. Navarro, I mean, you just have to look at the cover. You know she's going to be killed. Bjorn is meant to be like this sort of half Vasquez, half like, you know, oh, I don't like you, Andy, because my parents were, what was it? His parents were, what was it? An android had something to do. Yeah, in the mines.
On the mine, sacrificed to save others.
Yeah, so therefore he hates all androids, and I've got a cattle prod. God damn you, and I'll stick you, I'll shank you with my cattle prod. It's like, is that very two-dimensional? There's no depth to the other characters, which for me was the main bugbear. It was like, you had such a, you know, you got these kids that are basically wanting to get away. They have to go to the Renaissance ship, which is split into two, Remus and Romulus, and they have to get like the what do you call it, the gas, the chemical gas, to make their ship go intergalactic for their pods. Great setup. It's a great setup. But then they're just like, all right, here's my character. I hate androids. Here's my character. I'm meant to be the kind of Tyler, like the love relationship kind of person who doesn't really have a personality at all. He's just there. You know? Navarro, who's like the pilot, and then Bjorn. Yeah, it's just, they're just all very two-dimensional for me.
The D&D
they didn't even live up to...
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, one of the things that really took me out of this one was all the callbacks, like that we mentioned before about the get your hands off of her, and all that was so bad. It was so bad. It was really dumb. The cornbread stuff, the Bishop crawling through the tunnel, they have a callback for that, and the whole temperature thing I thought was cool. But the thing is, they lower the temperature inside the room, and then they open this huge door. So wouldn't the temperature change once you open the door? And what was a freezing room before, when you open this gigantic 20-foot door, the room's not going to be cold anymore, and this you do this to the whole ship. So you're immediately getting introduced all this heat into the room. And I know I'm probably overthinking this, but just if it's such a big deal to have the temperature lowered, and then you open a huge door out of a warm room into a cold room, it's the temperature's going to go back up.
They were warming the temperature to match body heat, I think. But yeah, same problem.
Oh, warm. Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Same problem. Yeah,
but as you said, like if you open the doors, the warmth is going to immediately go out of the room anyway. So it's the same type of thing, whether it's low temperature or high temperature. Once you open the door, it's going to. Unless they close the door behind them, I don't know. But
let's just make a note that they meant the entire ship, because that way they would stay undetected for longer.
There you go.
No long-term planning. Okay.
Yeah, but I like. I mean, once again, I have to go back to Andy. I like the use of his character. Like they're only bringing him along because they need him to get into the ship. He's got like Weyland-Yutani passcodes or whatever in his fingerprint. So, once they give him the upgrade from Rook's character, he changes, and we don't know whether his machinations are for evil or for good, or and that's when I think he shines a little bit there, because he's just going on his own mission now. Like, he's there to then preserve the life of the alien from what Rook's telling him. But then he's obviously conflicted because of his responsibilities to Rain. So I did like that part. And there's the part as well where Kay's character is stuck behind a door. And they're like going, open the door, Andy. And he's like, no, I can't open the door, because if I do that, then we're all dead. And it's like, the pragmatic side of, you know what, this creature is just baiting you, sort of thing. And it kind of shows, once again, the intelligence of this, superior life form. But obviously they don't like the fact that their friend is about to get killed, sort of thing. So there are certain instances in the film where there's like some neat ideas that they kind of bring into the mix. And then also as well, like you have the kind of callback to the prototype pulse rifle that they get given later on in the film, and it's kind of meshing the kind of smart gun sort of technology of Aliens with the kind of normal pulse rifle with the little shoulder mount sort of thing, which I appreciated. Having the kind of acid, you can't really kill the alien because the acid will just kind of decimate the ship, and you'll be sucked out into space. So what do you do then? Are you looking at other kind of means to kill this thing? And then you have the anti-grav situation as well. So there were some nice ideas. Maybe it was just a culmination of too many ideas in the broth. And then you've got the black goo. They introduced, once again, the black goo into this as a kind of MacGuffin, if you will, that kind of calls back on Prometheus and Covenant, and is trying to sort of unite all the ideas that happened beforehand. And for me, it was like you could have had this film without the black goo at all. Like, you could have just had these kids go up, into the spaceship, exploring this kind of haunted house type of thing. I know, like, the whole title's called Romulus and Remus, and the kind of Roman mythology of, like, these two people who, births Rome, essentially. That's not really explored. I think they have one tiny segment where they have a plaque on the wall, and they're explaining the story of Romulus and Remus, and that's it. It's not really kind of catered about before as well. But the theme of the film is like meant to be like the Romulus part of the ship is alien, and the Remus part of the ship is the action part of it, sort of thing. I think maybe it's psychologically meant to make you feel that, the first half is a kind of suspenseful horror, and then the second half is an action thriller. Did it work for you guys in that respect, or no?
No. I think they just like the name. What wings can we use? Remus and Romulus. Okay, that sounds great. As a name for a ship, yeah, really.
It kind of calls back to like Prometheus as well and everything, I guess, and it's trying to kind of meld the timelines or the different variations of the films by having that. But
I really wish they would have ignored Prometheus and Covenant. I wish they would have just completely just pretended they didn't exist. Don't give us callbacks to it. Don't give us the goo. Because if let's say Weyland-Yutani did have the goo, would they only keep it on the ship? Because if they found this magical goo, wouldn't they immediately take a portion of it to save it somewhere? I mean, wouldn't they ship it off somewhere else? This multi-trillion-dollar corporation, whatever it is. I think they get wrapped up in this evil corporation stuff, and I think it takes away from the alien side of it, the science fiction side, and I think they're making this into this faceless villain when I don't know that it really needs. I mean, I know Burke had his plans in Aliens, but I don't know. It kind of derails what the first several films did, I think, in some ways.
It's interesting as well because now we have the Alien Earth that's going to be coming out next year, right?
Course.
And that's meant to be.
Yeah.
I'm. You know what? I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it because as much as we've seen Weyland-Yutani be, as you said, like this, Steve, like this faceless corporation, I really want to see a kind of almost like a kind of Game of Thrones style political type of film based in the alien world. In the way, like we're going to see some of these kind of corporate like stooges, and we're going to see more of the kind of in and out daily life. I'm interested in seeing that on that side of things. If there's good characters, if there's some manipulations going on, if there's some conniving, if there's trying to have these exec officers trying to climb the greasy pole of Weyland-Yutani and how they're going to perhaps do one person over the other to try and be that person. I think that would work quite well, as long as it's done in a kind of intelligent way. If they go with the whole like, hey, I'm here, I'm sending you to this remote planet, and I'm a Weyland-Yutani exec, so therefore I'm a bad person. It's not going to work. And I think what they tried to do with Romulus here was they were trying to sort of give you that red herring of, Rook's trying to be a good character. When they got the black goo, it's to kind of help people in the mines and stuff like this. We're going to create this kind of new jet. And I think everyone, I don't know about you guys, I was sitting there going, yeah, all right, where's the catch? We know there's going to be a catch. Where is it? When is it coming? And then you see the kind of rat video where the rat's, surprisingly comes back to life and all good, and then they walk off, and then you see the rat get splattered and it's turning into like a monster or whatever sort of thing. It's like, yeah, there it is. So it didn't last very long, in terms of what they were trying to do, in making Rook to be this kind of very nice character as opposed to his Ash counterpart. But then he didn't turn out to be a good character at all. So, yeah.
No,
I think the fact that we don't have the last Scott film bridging the gap between those films and the first Alien, I think that also hurts the timeline, the franchise timeline. And I don't know. I think I know they're planning a follow up to this one, but at some point, I don't know. At what point do we say that the franchise needs an extended break?
Well, I mean, Romulus did really good at the box office, right?
Yeah, it did pretty good.
So. Would you want a film following Rain and Andy and their adventures, or would you want like just a new IP? Look at the Dark Horse comics, or now Marvel comics, but there's a whole host, and I've said this before on these chats that we've had. You've got all these different things you can do with the alien design, creature, whatever. You've got all these different characters. Just use some of those, man. If not, because this was too safe. This film was too safe. It relied too heavily on the previous films. It was key dangling to a demographic that I'm not even sure who they were trying to target. But it was a good film in that respect in terms of it smashed the box office at the time. So we probably will get another one. I don't think we're going to be following Andy and Rain, personally. I think their story is done. But yeah, you could have a whole slew of different characters, different plots, that once again make the xenomorph like the chilling predator / alien that it is.
I think what this could use is just like these like one-offs that kind of one move, but exploring like have a film about the settlers on LV 426 when they find the facehugger, something like that, and it just be a one and done, and maybe that rolls into new story or something like that, where it all connects to give us an insight on things that we didn't witness in the original films. But I wish they would. I really wish that Scott wouldn't have gotten in the way of Blomkamp's idea to go with Alien 5 with Hicks and.
Yeah.
I would watch that.
So that would have been cool.
I would watch that. I would even watch, what happened to the abandoned ship, in Alien, with the architect, little bits, because there's no lack of ideas. There's no lack of plot threads to pick. It's just pick one and really delve deep into it. Create an actual story, even if it doesn't connect to the rest. But I think the ideas are there. But what they did, it was just, well, I have all these ideas into the soup. I mean, there was no need to add the architects, Prometheus to the mix. There was already too much, and how they did it, that's when I completely gave up. Because, okay, whenever there's a pregnant character, that's gonna, it's gonna be a birth. And because she wasn't that heavily pregnant, I was like, okay, but that was in Prometheus, so maybe, that they are just using her, for effect. When she dies, it's gonna be, more impactful. No, the moment I saw the black blue, I was like, oh dear, this is not going that well. And it didn't. And I think for me, the creepiest thing in the whole movie, because I wasn't even, I wasn't tense, during Aliens, and even in Alien 3, there's always that sense of tension. Even though I've watched the films, a dozen times now, I still get tense when the alien appears. It still has that effect. During Romulus, no, I was like, oh, there you are. It's good to see you again, kind of deal, at most. But
like an old friend, welcome
yeah,
in.
kind of. But then that skinny architect is just, if they had done film just with that, it would have been better. So many little things that, again, they didn't give it enough time, they didn't give it enough context, they didn't give it enough reason for us to care. And that's me that loves the franchise, and I grew up with these films. Anyone who's just introduced to Alien with this film without context, they'll be like, yeah, no, it's just another horror movie, at best. Which is a shame, because I think it is a lot more, it could be a lot more than that.
Out of all the things that they brought back into this one of the one thing that I think is almost universally disliked is the hybrid from Resurrection.
Yeah.
Why go with the hybrid again? Why go back to that?
Everything.
I don't understand.
Yeah. They managed to put in everything, and without care if it made sense, if it connected. They just wanted to put everything there. The same with the one-liners. They just wanted to put them there. They were completely out of context, out of personality. It made no sense. It's perfectly fine to, as an homage, and it has been done successfully many times. But you need to create the right character in the right context to deliver the line. And they didn't even do that.
I think they should get a cat involved. Get a face hugger on a cat. I'd love to see what a kind of cat xenomorph would look like.
My bad, I forgot about the cat. Cat is important. Maybe they couldn't cast the cat. Then someone might come and say, oh no, animal abuse, we can't have a cat diet because, save the cat.
But as you say, Stephen, like with the humanoid version, the newborn, I guess because you have the elongated limbs and you've got the kind of humanoid type features, I think to some respect it's meant to look like something otherworldly, yet at the same time human. So are we meant to empathize with it? Are we meant to, be scared of it because it looks more like us than it does an alien? But this is the second time they've kind of tried it. And I mean...
They did it better in Alien
they've obviously
4.
got the actor who... Yeah, with the newborn, with that one. Yeah.
At least...
I don't know. I didn't... I didn't feel like it was obviously threatening because it, you know, almost acted like a kind of vampire in that respect, that it was kind of feeding off Kay at the end when she gave birth to it.
I'm just thankful that he wasn't breastfeeding.
But yeah,
for a moment there, I was like, oh dear.
I thought so too.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I think it was actually, because there's that kind of that's a callback, isn't it, to the plaque that they had, sort of thing, which I think they did see there was some kind of breastfeeding thing going on. I forget now, but yeah, tenuous at best. It didn't really. It just felt like that kind of, you know, as you mentioned earlier, Susana, the kind of horror movie trope of we think the evil's been killed now. Nope, we got another thing. It's come back for one last dance, you know, and then once again doing the whole blow it out of the airlock, but then
How many aliens have been killed through all these movies? How many times have we seen an alien shot or burned or whatever? Why do we always blow it out of the airlock at the end? Why is that always something that's happening? I don't know.
I don't really mind that so much, because it is kind of a trope of this franchise. You know, I don't mind. If it was just that gets repeated, okay, fine. But I don't know.
I mean, I tend to. All right, here's the best, I think, way of doing it, because, like, in Aliens, at the very end with the alien queen, right? Let's be honest. There's suspension of disbelief in terms of, you know, these things happening anyway. But then that last part always gets me, because they open the airlock and it's like the air's just not going to get sucked out. Like, everyone's dead in that room, right? That is like complete. But we, I think, because of what's gone on beforehand, we're invested in it now, and it's like, you know what? I'll let that one slide.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, other films, when you have that kind of thing happen, it's like, come on, man. There's no way that could happen. We know it can't happen, but we allow it because dependent on our investment, I guess. So I think that's what the difference is sometimes in certain films. Like, it depends on how much you're invested in, that you can let things slide and you'll be like, we know that wouldn't happen, but okay, we'll let it go on this occasion. That's always the one thing that's bugged me in Aliens, where that bit at the end is like, come on, man. You're holding on with your arm? Ah, come on, Ripley.
Yeah, that was a very strong arm.
You're a badass, but you're not that badass. You can't fight science, you know.
Yeah.
But
we've been kind of trained. There's many films that use, you know, the throwing out the airlock. It's part of sci-fi, and we know that it doesn't happen that way, but it looks cool, so we kind of go along with it. It's almost like quicksand in the 80s. You know, it was in every film, and it's just for some reason. So I think throwing things out of the airlock is a sci-fi quicksand way to get rid of good and heroes and villains alike, especially monsters.
Well, Alien 3 did a pretty... I think Alien 3 was pretty cool, the way they killed that one with the metal. With the metal and
the molten sort of
the molten,
and then
that was cool.
That was actually really quite inspired in terms of, you know, because you see it already with the bucket. There's that foreshadowing, isn't there, sort of thing. And obviously they've got no weapons. And once again, I always liked that fact that they didn't have any weapons, because you had such a meaty action film with aliens, and it was like, no, we're going to sort of go back to having no weapons, and we'll just, you know, try and use our intuition and our intelligence to kind of fight this beast. But I think, you know, one sort of thing that we haven't really spoken about is Alien Isolation, you know, in terms of like having the character of Amanda Ripley, Ripley's daughter, and the story. I don't know if you guys played it. That's a terrifying game. Like, it's terrifying. Like, you feel under constant threat all the time. And you have that, all right, you could say we were talking about old IP characters and stuff like that, but this is, you know, you have the span of, you know, a daughter searching for a mum, essentially, which is always a strong element of a story. And, you know, they've just announced that there's going to be an Alien Isolation 2, so... You know, maybe the next film isn't going to be a film. Maybe the next where we get engrossed is going to be in the game. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah,
I never played it, but I
It's
will
terrifying,
vote.
Susana. It's great.
Yeah.
But
Promise.
it's terrifying. Yeah.
I rage quit that game. I played at the very set launch, and I kept getting killed, and I even had it like the very easiest difficulty, and I could not survive. I kept getting killed, and I would sit in the locker for like half an hour waiting for it to leave. It was just.
Oh, God, in that
try it
case,
again.
I don't stand a chance then. But I will have a look. Could be fun.
It was scary though. Yeah. But I would much rather see that adapted than something else that just kind of relies on member berries over and over and over again and lines from previous movies. But I think what some of the stuff that was done, I think worked, but I don't know. I was a little bit disappointed. Even it was just kind of forgettable. Not a whole lot to.
Yeah.
It is very
I think
forgettable, isn't it? It's been a couple of weeks, and yeah.
Yeah, as I said, I think it's a very safe film. I think the people behind the scenes knew what they were doing. They were going to try and combine the very sort of famous ones, mold it into a kind of, young tearaways trying to find a new lease of life, come across the xenomorph. Yeah. I went in with low expectations. I came out thinking the actual film itself was made very well. A lot of, like as you said, depending on where you're coming from, pacing issues, or did they? I never felt at any point that I was bored by watching it. I never felt any time that my bum was going numb or anything like that. But it didn't. They did try to provide new things into the mix, like as we were saying, the mass on the wall where the alien kind of comes out of, and the depending on how you feel about the newborn again, or the kind of mix of DNA, the hybrid version of things, and having a little items like where she can see inside the X-ray machine thing. I like that. I thought that was pretty cool. But you've kind of shown that in the trailer. If you see the trailer, let's be like you mentioned before, Steve, like at the very beginning, like if you watch the trailer, you can pretty much see the beats of where this film is going and how it's going. So in that respect, it doesn't really bring anything new into the mix, unfortunately. Yeah. Maybe there is a new part of a life cycle to this xenomorph that we don't know about. I'd like to explore that a little bit. Like, Susana, what you were saying before about the engineers and stuff, like, I mean, at the time when Prometheus, the engineers, yeah, when Ridley Scott first introduced it, I know his ideology. Like I like the kind of philosophical thing of who created us, going into that kind of, who's created humans and gods and and I like that kind of aspect of it, and it was very different from all the other films, and because of that, I'll always give Prometheus a pass.
I like it so much more now. I appreciate it so much more.
Yeah, it was one of those ones that kind of, I felt after the first viewing, I had to kind of rewatch it to kind of get all the nuances and stuff. But I'm not really sure about the kind of whole, like the main character that we're meant to be rooting for in this is Rain, but really it's Andy. And it's like, in the previous ones we had David as well, or Walter, whichever, like David is the main antagonist, protagonist type of person in those ones. Now we've got Andy, and it's like, when can we not write human characters anymore that we can actually empathize with and get behind and rally behind? What happens? Like, why are we now going? Is this like an AI thing? Like, are we going down that road of? It opens a can of worms in that respect, but also at the same time, I just want to watch an alien film where I can get behind and actually root for a human person and be like, have another badass like Ripley, have another kind of, what? Do another Marines film. I'd love to see another like Aliens type of film where it's just Marines and we're following them on a different planet and they're doing something else and they get cornered in. It's like a Black Hawk Down sort of situation, but with the Marines, the technology they have with them, that would be great. I'm sure there's been scripts that have been passed around in Hollywood where they've had there's the Dark Horse comics again where they use the characters. There's a lot of new characters. There's a VR game coming out now with a new kind of Marine as well that's been kind of highlighted and all that kind of stuff. It's like, it can be done. And I'd love to see it. And I'm hoping in Alien Earth they have that kind of the Marines in there as well. But who knows? Who knows? One can hope.
Yeah, we can hope. But a Marines movie would be great. That'd be fun.
Yeah, definitely.
If done well.
Yeah, I think mentioned the cast earlier. I think the cast was okay, but I was a little skeptical with the young cast, but I think they did okay. But if you saw the trailer, you pretty much knew what was going to happen, who was going to die, what was going to happen. So I don't know. I don't know. The last half or so was just not good.
No, the actors themselves, they were fine. You know, there no complaints there. I mean, there was no memorable performances, but they were doing the best they could to be the characters they had to play. I mean, there wasn't much to play with. You know, just run away and scream and. But again, Anthony, you were saying that you were rooting for the android. In this film particularly, I was rooting for anyone. Actually, when the skinny engineer, not architect, was born, at that point I was like, oh, maybe they're all gonna die. That's why we haven't heard about this. Maybe that's the take, or maybe a part of the consciousness of the android is going to be uploaded, and that's how the company finds out that something happened. You know, I didn't see how they would survive, and I didn't even see the point of them surviving, because they're not. So maybe that would have been a better ending, because I wasn't rooting for anyone at that point. And the line of, get away from her, you bitch, kind of, I don't care about you anymore. that was me done. So
yeah, that was definitely a grown-out moment when I was in the cinema watching it. I was like, oh, no, he didn't just say that. Oh, come on. And I get, he puts an inflection on it as well. He's like, get away from her, you
and then pause.
bitch. And it was like this pregnant pause, and it was like, no, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work at all.
I mean, I started watching the critical drinker, fixes Alien, and I stopped there. Because I was like, I don't even want to watch, how he fixes it. Because if it got this bad, you can't fix it. And then I'm just there like a minute in. Anyway, I'm still glad I watched it, because now I can talk about it.
Yeah. We'll see. Hopefully, if he does, I think Alvarez is on board for the next one. Or at least they're trying to give him a sign up. Hopefully they try not to do as much, I think, is the hope, if they try and do another one.
I mean, I kind of hope that this has given him that kind of springboard to actually, because you can tell as well that he's had to kind of adhere to Scott's version as well. No doubt in my mind that there was probably a different version of this, or there was different versions, and he gave it to Scott, and Scott was like, no, you have to do this and you have to do that. So hopefully with the next one, if he's directing it, he can actually spread his wings a bit. And I'm all up for experimentation and like the life cycle being. See, how can you can't mess with canon, right? What we already previously know, but maybe there's something else that we don't know, like with that mass thing on the wall. Like I was interested in finding out about that, and does that then adhere to the life form actually being able to kind of cocoon people and stuff like that, and along those sort of lines, is there something else that we haven't experienced yet? Is there some kind of imagination that can be used to kind of bring something else new to the table? Because by this point, like, what is this, like the 9th film now that we've had, and it's like where they've tried to put something new into the mix. The original Alien, groundbreaking for its time. The second one, you had the Alien Queen, so it's like you've got this kind of like Hive type element. The Hive thing's been run on. Alien 3 is going back a bit, sort of thing, and then Resurrection was the newborn, and then Prometheus, Covenant are more philosophical based rather than actually about the beast itself. So there's a lot of stuff that could be done with this, I think. It's just trying to find the right pitch, if you know what I mean. Like trying to find the right thing, not throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. but just like going with either having, like as you said there, Steve, like having a group of people on a planet and seeing the thing and how they deal with it, or being a lot of these type of things where you're stuck in a certain place that you can't get out with. In terms of Romulus, they're on the spaceship again. We've had that kind of thing from the first one. In the second one, it was Hadley's Hope, where they're in this kind of like community sort of this terraform base sort of thing. In the third one, it was this kind of prison, la 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 la. There's always been like this gothic tradition of like being in an unescapable place, and I get that, I understand that has to work in terms of like the trope of what it is. But can we do something different with it? Can it be, experiment with, that kind of thing? That's what I'm looking forward to. Because if it's just the same old again, then people are going to lose interest. If people haven't already lost interest, like look at the new Predator film that's coming out. Apparently they're going to be using the Predator as the protagonist. I don't know about that, but we'll see. Prey, in my opinion, was okay. Wasn't groundbreaking for me in that respect. You're now dealing with different timelines or different areas of what it is, but making the actual beast the protagonist, it's like it's a bold move.
I would watch Alien from the big
from the alien's perspective.
Yeah, I would watch that. So
that'd be cool. Well, it wasn't as bad as I thought it'd be. For as far as just because I thought it'd go a little, I thought we'd be a little harder on it, but there's a couple positives, but
so many questions, so many plot holes. There was no need. Yeah. It wasn't boring. There was never a dull moment. There was always things happening, but that alone doesn't make a great film.
Yeah, very true. Anything else you guys can think of?
No. Again, maybe I shouldn't ask, but how did they get the facehuggers? How they had them like cloned in drawers? I mean, how?
So I think they used the big chaps like DNA that they found from the fossilized, crystallized ice or whatever it was, rock, and they sort of.
How did they even know what to isolate? Because it's a completely different life form.
Science, Susana, science. You can do anything by saying a line of, we extrapolated its DNA.
It's too complicated,
and,
yes.
Put it on a bit of under a microscope, and we're able to extrapolate this particular thing and grow it from our own egg sac things. Yes.
Okay. Fair enough.
I don't think you're meant to kind of like think too much about it, but you're right. I mean, how do they get the previous organism type of thing? Because the facehugger is the alien, I guess. Really, at its core base? But then wouldn't that be the egg?
You see, there was no need.
What came first, the chicken or the egg, Susana?
Oh, the egg. The cock, actually. So if they had just, cloned the alien, and then somehow got loose on the ship, nothing original, but, that alone, it would be fine, because an alien, I guess it would be too similar to the original alien, but that wouldn't be a bad thing, because it would be a completely different cast. These young kids go and try to escape and do something stupid, and there's this abandoned ship, and there's this alien on board. Just stick to that. I think it would have worked much better for a new audience coming into the franchise, and the old fans would still be like, oh yeah, that's cool. We've seen it before, but it's, if it was done just slightly different here and there, slightly different characters, then, I don't know, just sometimes less is more. And I think they really tried too much to do too much. And make no sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else you guys can think of?
That's that.
I think there's something to be said about using actors who have passed away using their likeness. Obviously, the Ian Holmes estate signed off on that sort of thing, and does it preserve that actor's legacy, or does it exploit them? That's a question that's going to be asked, I guess, even now going into the future and stuff. With what are your thoughts on that in terms of if you've seen an actor who's digitally enhanced who may have passed away or still alive? I'm not talking about like de-aging, but I'm just sort of saying like in a kind of way of, what are your thoughts on that? Because personally, I think we should just leave that stuff,
I think it's inevitable. I think that ship sailed. They've done it before and they're going to keep doing it. And I think we're going to see a lot more of it. I just hope if they keep doing it, one, do it better, just out of respect, if nothing else. And do it when it justifies. Because, if there's something that no other actor could play on that character, or even if it's done as an homage to that character, okay, do it, but do it right. Be truthful to the character, be truthful to the work of the actor as that character. Don't just make it a cartoon special effect. That's what I stand.
It's funny as well because the technology we have now. Look back at when Jeff Bridges did Tron Legacy, right? Mm-hmm. And they used a kind of CGI head on him, and now I can't remember how long ago that film was. At least I want to say 10 years. I could be wrong, probably less than that. But let's say, for example, it's 5 years ago. The technology as we go on is going to get better and better and better. So then it like becomes the kind of case of at the time that stuff was probably cutting edge, but now it looks a bit jank, So where do you go from, in the next couple of years? Let's say 10 years down the line, and we've cracked it, and you can see actors like flawlessly imitating, on screen anyway, for example. An avatar of that person, and your brain is tricked into thinking that this is actually real, right? Maybe I'm getting a bit too sci-fi here, but it's the thing of where does that end? It's interesting.
It's not going to end. It's going to get. I think actors are going to sell their likenesses.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's probably contracts already that are like. If I'm an actor and I go into a movie, I probably have to sign some kind of thing that says my likeness will be used for this, that, and the other. And I guess it's down to that particular actor's willingness to do it or not. I think, as I said with Romulus, it was very weird that at the very beginning when we first introduced it, he's all clouded in darkness. And then as the film progresses on, it seemed like the CGI was getting better. But at the very beginning, it was very jank looking. And it was just very weird. I assume with all these type of things with studios, it's a time restraint thing. They don't have the time to actually put in what they need to. Like the best type of special effects are the ones you don't notice, in any kind of film. So when you notice it, it's already kind of jarring you away from the actual what's going on. And in this case, that's what happened, because as soon as you see CGI Ian Holmes, or Rook, Ash, then you're instantly disconnected a little bit in that respect, and it kind of pulls you away. And that's how I always feel when I see special effects that aren't good. I'm not saying it's bad. It's not bad. I've seen worse, but it's just that thing of uncanny valley, man. Like, yeah.
Yeah, do it right.
Anyway, that's my 2 cents worth.
There's no excuse, man.
We've got to wait for Alien Earth, Steve, and then we'll do like episodic discussions on the Alien Earth when it comes out.
Yeah.
Sure.
If they do indeed make it more about political intrigue and with good characters, good dialogue, I would watch that. But at this I'm not particularly optimistic.
Yeah,
we'll see. Maybe they learn something.
I don't know. Hopefully.
People are tired of mindless, entertainment, give us something.
We'll cross our fingers. All right. Yeah, it wasn't as bad as I thought. We didn't go off the rails as much as I thought we would. But yeah, we'll see. Alien Earth comes next, so we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, Anthony, how can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter or X under Mr. Selfie. I've got a YouTube gaming channel called Horrible. And I've done a few books that you can catch on Amazon. And member of the Page Chewing Forum.
And Susana.
You can also find me on the Page Chewing Forum and on Twitter and on my YouTube channel, Damn Weird. My books are available pretty much anywhere you can buy books, but mainly on Amazon. And I have a new one coming up next month called Mysterious, which is a retelling of the myth of Theseus and the Minotaur from the Minotaur's perspective, so from the monster's perspective. So check it out. It's now available for pre-order.
Nice. I have my pre-order in and ready to go. So thanks again. I'm glad we can all come together and discuss this one. Kind of finish off the franchise for now until Alien Earth. But until next time, we'll talk to everyone very soon. Thanks for listening, and we'll be careful and watch out for the goo.
Yeah.